Is it time for the Montreal Canadiens to make a deal before the return to play, Mitch?
No, there's no rush to make a move. What's the rush?
You told me like 2 hours ago that they should have traded Joel Armia before he gets hurt.
Yeah, but now he can't get hurt. He's not playing anymore.
But he could get hurt on Saturday night against Ottawa.
Yeah. I do think, let me put it like this. I would not be rushing into any decision. However, I'm at the point where I don't think the Canadiens are going to make the playoffs. And I do think you have to start thinking about the future and what's better for the team. Keeping these guys around until the deadline or trading them now and trying to get maximum value. When I look at the NHL standings, I still see so many teams that think they are competitive now that in a couple weeks from now, in a month from now, when we approach the deadline in March, those teams might come back down to earth, and now you're going to have more sellers. I think where the Canadiens can be, or where the Canadiens can take advantage is if they say, all right, let's become sellers earlier. And there's a lot of teams out there that think they can win the Stanley Cup, not just make the playoffs, that are going to want to try to get these new players acclimated as soon as possible. For that reason, I would try to trade guys sooner rather than later.
Yeah, there are teams that love making a deal early because they feel like they're making desperate deals. It's kind of that balance. Can we be the only team on the market to get the prices that we want? Or you wait to the deadline on March 7th, and then you can get lost in the shuffle and then just grab whatever you can get because there's too many players on the market. Teams are making their decision later. But if you draw that line in the sand, and let's flash back, Mitch, to Super Bowl weekend for the Montreal Canadiens, it was not good. The Canadiens limped to the Four Nations face-off break. They absolutely limped into it. And their record, not strong, out. They're like 5 points out of the bottom five. They're 6 points out of a playoff spot. They could go on a run like they did in December and January over the next 5 weeks and still be outside of a playoff spot. Remember those 2 dates? They went on a crazy run. January 7th and January 22nd. They held a playoff spot on both those days. No other days in 2025. Other than that, even on that streak, they were still always chasing. They need to go on a run like that. I think Kent Hughes, internally or even externally, needs to make that decision. Maybe he already has. That's why I think it's a good time right now to wheel and deal. The players that you have decided that you are moving on from, move on from them. Open that door to somebody else. And I understand it's going to be a busy time for the Laval Rocket, who are rolling in the AHL. And you can bring players in and then send them back for the playoff run. I know that's what the Canadiens as an organization will want to do, but you can bring them in now, then send them off. There's a lot of different things you could do. I'm okay with the Canadiens starting to, all right, we know who we're moving on from. We're making our decisions now. We're not going to wait till March 7th.
I'll give you some fits here. Bing, bing, bing.
Okay, go.
I'm going to tell you I see a great fit for David Savard in Tampa Bay.
Been there, done that.
Won the Cup. GM is familiar with him. Already had success. Would acclimate very easily. Team trying to win the Stanley Cup. Make it happen. I would try to trade Armia to the LA Kings. They're big. They play puck possession heavy hockey. You can have that connection with Marc Bergevin, who's the assistant GM there, probably saying, you know what, when Armia was in the playoffs on the line with Corey Perry and Eric Stahl, he was a big contributor for that Canadiens team that went all the way to the final.
I think Jake Evans might be a better fit than Armia there.
I don't think they need a center, so that's why I went more the wing route.
Well, just talking to Dennis Bernstein from the fourth period, he was telling me that push comes to shove, they might be more comfortable with Byfield on the wing. And that means Byfield could play higher up in the lineup.
That's not how I would view the LA Kings. The Dennis knows more about the Kings than I do.
That's my point. So I could see that. I also see the Armia fit. I see Evans.
Maybe it's both.
But Evans would be a fit anywhere.
Yeah.
And I think Evans would be a beautiful fit for Colorado.
Toronto.
Toronto's good, but I like Colorado.
I'm going to say Toronto. You can sell Toronto on the fact that maybe he'll re-sign there because he's a Toronto kid They desperately need a center. They desperately need a third-line center. I think Evans would be a really good fit in Toronto. Would he fit elsewhere, Campbell? Sure.
Yeah.
But I'm just giving you bing, three teams quickly.
But I don't see many bad fits for Jake Evans. I see Armia not fitting in everywhere. I see Savard not fitting in everywhere, right?
And before I left,
what about Dvorak? Would Dvorak be a second choice for anybody out there?
Personally, if I'm a championship caliber team, I have zero interest in Dvorak.
Okay.
Is there a team that might want to add some depth if the Canadiens want to retain salary and make the trade work, and you get a later round pick, and then he's maybe in and out of the lineup type of player? Maybe. But me personally, if I'm running a team, I have no interest in Dvorak at all.
But I guess the big question is, could the Canadiens get market value by trading them now? Or do they gain value or lose value?
I think
you want to sell high.
You get more value now. You get more value now because there's less teams to trade with.
Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of teams that want things.
Yes.
There's the same amount of teams that want things, if not more. Even teams outside the playoffs might be inquiring.
Like let's say
about a player.
Let's say you mentioned Colorado, I mentioned the Kings. Let's say you're one of these teams.
Mm-hmm.
And you're eyeing a potential target. Let's say, okay, I'm going to give you a complete hypothetical. Let's say you're a team and you're trying to decide between Scott Laughton and Jake Evans. All right, I'm going to give you those two. You're looking at both players. Both kind of similar. Laughton maybe a little bit better offensively. Jake Evans maybe a bit better defensively. Both can kill penalties, play different situations, whatever. But you're looking at those two players, right? And you and I were the management team of the Colorado Avalanche. Might say, Campbell, I like both players. Canadians are willing to trade Jake Evans now. We can go get him. Flyers are hanging around, and they're going to wait and see where they're at the deadline because they traded their guys last year, and the bottom fell out, and they just missed the playoffs in the final 2 weeks of the season. They're being patient. Laughton might become available, but Evans is available now. Let's strike while we can before another team swoops in, takes Evans, and then Philly is in a playoff spot. Laughton's no longer available, and now we're going on, instead of plan A and B, we're going on to our plan C, which is nowhere near as strong as those two players.
And the other factor is the fact that you could go and acquire someone today or tomorrow and then bring them in for 3-4 days of practice before you get back into the swing. And then this is our group. We're moving forward. We just made a deal. Get used to everybody.
And again, I'm not saying you have to trade them immediately. It has to be during the Four Nations face-off. It has to be before teams come back. I'm not saying you can't play a week of games and then make a trade. What I'm telling you is I'd want to make the trade before other teams make their decision on where their teams are headed. That's what I'm trying to get across.
The question is, should Habs make a deal before they return to play?